good afternoon and welcome to F4S Digital and our Maths for Girls event. And as we end April, which is Maths and Statistics Awareness Month, we are bringing you a series of career insight and inspiration sessions where we talk all things maths and where a qualification in maths can take you. And we're joined by Max from Volume AI. Thank you so much, Max, for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I will say that this session is being recorded, and to the people at home, please use the chat function to ask as many questions as you like, and I'll put them to Max as we go. We'll be putting a few polls up as well for you to answer, and once our session has been recorded, it will be available to view on our website. And we're also joined by Lauren, who is also going to tell us about her journey and her career with maths. The title of today is Maths of the Future. We'll be talking all things artificial intelligence and other maths of the future in this exciting world. So let's start with Max, please. Thanks again, Max, for joining us. Would you like to say a bit about where you work and what you do?
Sure. Hello, everybody. First off, thank you so much for tuning in and being curious enough to come and listen and hopefully ask us lots of questions about what we do and how we got here. I'm excited to share my story with you at least. My name is Max Knupfer. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at an innovation agency called Volume. And what I do is help our clients and our customers to solve their biggest problems. And I do that through the view of technology. So how can we help them to solve those problems using technology? And often that technology includes things like conversational AI, which is artificial intelligence.
Fantastic, thank you. And hi, Lauren, thank you for joining us. Would you like to tell us where you work and what your job is?
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren and I'm a technology degree apprentice at PwC. So PwC is this big international company that does loads and loads of things, but mostly it's in the realm of what we call professional services. So this basically means if a company needs help solving a problem, they'll come to PwC and we'll help them solve it. There are a wide range of roles available, like consultants are the main problem solvers, like I just mentioned, and there are many different types with different expertise. We also have accountants that help clients check over their finances to make sure everything adds up. There's no funny business going on. There's people who work in areas like deals, which assist clients making big business deals and acquisitions of other companies. I, however, work in PwC's technology sector. So PwC doesn't only have just a very talented IT department that manages the IT issues for thousands of employees. It also employs many technologists that work on innovative tech solutions to solve problems. I'm on PwC's technology degree apprentice program. This is a 4-year program involving a 3-year bachelor's degree in computer science. I study at the University of Leeds, but they also run it at the University of Birmingham and Queen's University Belfast. We do the degree like any other student, but we have 2 10-week placements in the summer after years 1 and 2, and a whole year placement between years 2 and 3 of your degree. So I can study and then I can come to PwC and apply what I've learned in a business context. I'm currently over halfway through my placement year and I'm placed in the technology and investments unit. This is a reasonably new area of the business where we try out lots of cutting edge technology. There are many teams. We have a blockchain team, we have a drones team, we have a virtual reality team. This team is very cool. They have lots of fancy VR equipment. Not only do they build their own virtual reality and augmented reality experiences for things like training, they help companies realize the potential of virtual reality and augmented reality and how they can implement that in their business. I personally am in the artificial intelligence team. We have lots of cool projects. I don't know if I should talk about that now. Should I save that?
Yeah, you can. I'm thinking, so what I'm hearing so far is loads of cool stuff from both of you, but you've both mentioned innovation and problem solving and tech a number of times. So this sounds really exciting, and artificial intelligence. So can we take it back a few steps, please? And let's think about what innovation actually means and also what artificial intelligence means. Would either of you like to take that, and then we can both talk a bit more about your projects that you're working on?
Sure. So I'll tackle innovation, and Lauren, if you want to go after artificial intelligence, how's that for a split?
That sounds good.
Right. So innovations is quite a tricky thing, right? People often conflate invention with innovation.
Yes.
But innovation is actually really quite special, because innovation is where you take that invention, and it can be all sorts of different things, and you may combine it with other existing ideas, and you realize the idea. You make it into something that's real. You put it into action. And it's turning those ideas and inventions and technologies into something that is real and has an impact in the world. That is innovation. And so when people talk about innovation in companies and innovation, which as you kind of move, especially as you move into the world of work, you'll find that people talk about it all the time. And really what they're talking about is having an idea or a product or a concept and actually making it real and work in that business or in the world in some way.
That sounds awesome, amazing. But I also heard, I think both of you, especially Lauren, saying that you get to try out, because this is all quite new, right? So you're really at the cutting edge and trying out innovations that are hopefully going to make an impact. So Lauren, would you like to tell us a bit more, please, about artificial intelligence?
So artificial intelligence, it's kind of a broad term that we kind of use when we talk about teaching computers kind of how to think like humans. So us as humans on a day-to-day basis, we absorb so much from our environment and from our experiences that we learn new things, and we learn how to navigate our environment. We learn how to recognize things. And what we kind of do in artificial intelligence is we take that and we apply the same principles, but for computers. We're teaching computers how to think, how to predict, how to act, based on lots and lots of data. So generally in artificial intelligence, what we'll do is we'll get loads of data. There can be different types of data. And we feed it into a model, and the model will basically learn from this data. One example is you can teach a computer program to recognize pictures of cats and dogs. You'll have a big data set with lots of pictures of cats, and they're all marked as cat. And you'll have lots of pictures of dogs all marked as dogs. And you'll feed it into a program that you've built using maths. You use maths principles to kind of build this model. And when you feed it lots of data, it will continue to learn what features within the images relate to cats and what relate to dogs. So you don't actually tell them, oh, cats have little pointy ears and they're a bit smaller. They learn that themselves. And then when you give them a new image that they've never seen before, they can predict whether it's a dog or whether it's a cat. So there are different types of artificial intelligence. That's more what I just explained is machine learning. There's also something called deep learning. There's also something called natural language processing, which is computers learning to interpret language. For example, Google Translate is a good example of natural language processing. It learns from lots and lots of data how to construct sentences and how to translate things. You can also teach computers how to play video games, such as chess. What they'll do in this is they'll get kind of two computers who kind of know the rules, and you will have some kind of objectives, and they will play these kind of two computers off against each other until they learn how to actually play chess and how to actually win. So AI is really interesting. It's a lot of it is basically teaching and building computer programs that kind of think like people.
Wow. Wow, that is amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that, Lauren, and for those great examples. I know, Max, you had some slides that you wanted to share as well to talk a bit more about your work at Volume AI. Would you like to share your screen just now?
Okay, sure. I think I'll share my screen. I probably need to bump through a couple of these because we've sort of touched on some of this. So this was who I am and what I do at work. I created this slide actually because I wanted to talk a little bit about, okay, it's all great to talk about working in artificial intelligence and working in the fields of technology, but what is it about the job that's actually exciting? Where do you get the satisfaction from? I spent 20 odd years in hospitality, and it's a very immediate business. So when you serve a customer and you produce something and you give it to them, they're either happy with it or not. And your sense of satisfaction is very immediate because the job is either well done and it's visibly well done, or it's not. In the work that I do now, really the joy and the satisfaction is when people can see the vision you have of the future, and they can say, oh, actually, yes, I share that vision. And they say, that's a great idea, and I'd like to work with you to implement it. And in doing that, they are implicitly saying, I trust you. And it's that giving of trust and wanting to work with you that is, for me, the most satisfying part of my job. I get to play with lots of cool technology and do all sorts of interesting things with it, but that's actually the bit that is the most satisfying. And I guess I mentioned that I started out in hospitality. I thought I'd give a quick overview of kind of how I ended up working in technology when it seems there's a sort of a random way of getting started. Certainly, Lauren seems to be taking a much more tried and trusted route to working in tech. I started my very first business when I was about 14 years old in 1993, and that was selling sandwiches and hot chocolate and drinks to an adult education school that was held in my school in the weekends. And I had a dream then of running a restaurant. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to own and run a restaurant. And very early on, I learned about data and listening to my customers and collecting feedback. And that turned into running a restaurant. And then eventually I went to work for Costa Coffee. And when I went to work for Costa Coffee, no one really knew who they were. Now everybody knows who they are, but there were only about 120 stores when I started working there. So I started running Costa's coffee stores, and I very quickly bumped into using maths, the maths that I had learned during school and post school. And the maths was really actually, quite complex. I was having to do things like work out how to get the most out of a really big team of people's very limited time availability and schedule that out in a way that didn't take me hours every week to do myself. So I used maths to create formulas and build spreadsheets that did the planning for me. I had to use maths to work out what the best margins were on the products that I was selling so that I could get, now, in Costa, there are people who do all this for you, but back when I started, there weren't. So I had to work out what was it that I could sell that would make me the most profit and in which combinations in order to get my bonus and to make sure that I made the most money I could. So I moved from running stores into the finance department, which, as you can imagine, where it's money and auditing and all those sorts of things, it's all about maths. And while I was doing that, I studied accountancy, and so realized that actually I don't want to do that for a job long term. So I went to work for another coffee company and started opening stores and developing product. And that turned into really a love for creating new things. So product development is very much about having new ideas, but also being able to use data and therefore statistics and maths in order to understand the total real world value of those ideas. So in creating new products, you can't just create something new that's gold-plated hamburgers for, you know, whatever it is. You know, you see some ridiculous things, the world's most expensive drink and all that sort of stuff. Those aren't real products. That's not real innovation, because they don't actually deliver long-term value for that business. You have to really understand how to put together ingredients and you know, or your the different parts in a way that makes sense financially and allows you to make a profit. So there was a lot of maths in what I did, and a lot of collating data and collecting customer data and feedback as well, to also inform what we might start working on next and what the next new idea might be. So about 2014, about a year after my wife and I had our first child, our only child, I had a little bit of a crisis, and I decided, and I realized that I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore, and I really wanted to make a big change. And it was at that point that I decided that I wanted to work in technology, because in all this time, one of the things that had been strong in the background for me was that I dabbled in computer programming, I created my own spreadsheets, I taught myself to code, I did a lot of learning all the time. For me, learning has been a big part of my life and of my career. And I was always teaching myself new things. And I realized that I really wanted to move into tech, and I couldn't really work out how, but I decided that I was going to do that. And to force myself to do that, I was going to find a new job that was not in hospitality. I was going to quit my job. And to make me do that even faster, I quit my job immediately and just took a risk. And then while I was not working, I started to write out a plan of what that would look like. So I, you know, basically enacted that plan. I moved into recruitment. Part of my plan was find a problem that needs solving using technology. Because what I decided was I wanted to be involved in a really young company, a startup company. So in recruitment, I realized there were plenty of problems, some really interesting, quite big problems to solve. And so in thinking about that, I met a guy called Ben Kaminsky, and him and I and another guy, Charlie Markham, we got together talking about these problems in recruitment, and we decided that we would start a company. We called it lots of different things over time, but now it's called Eva. And we were going to create, and we did create, a platform using artificial intelligence that automates the recruitment of people into roles, but it also allows you to use artificial intelligence to predict the best sort of job to put someone into. So one of the things that I'm most proud of and pleased with that platform is that the UN uses that technology now to deploy disaster relief experts globally, and it's done using the artificial intelligence algorithms and also the platform that we created. And the cool thing about it is it's not just one type of artificial intelligence. And you know, Lauren mentioned there are a few different types and ways of doing. We have predictions that work out what might be the best job for you, but we also use natural language processing in the platform for chatbots, which automate the communication between the platform and the person, so that a very small team of people in the UN can oversee and manage this, you know, the deployment of hundreds and hundreds of consultants all over the globe annually. And so that's how, you know, in terms of like moving from, you know, where you are at any point in your life, any decision you ever make about what you love and what you want to do, into changing that and doing something else. I guess the thing I wanted to get across in my story was it doesn't really matter where you start, you know, as long as you have some core skills. And for me, the one skill that has carried me through every single job has been the ability to work with numbers, mathematical ability. And, you know, and I'm not a natural mathematician in any shape or form. You know, maths was my weakest subject at school by a long way. And when I finished high school, my dad told me that that wasn't good enough, and that I would really struggle in life if I couldn't do better. And so he made me go to our technical college in the town that I grew up in and take a year of applied mathematics, which was, you know, a course that I am forever grateful that he made me go and do. But you know, that has to be a good thing, and that's kind of how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing your story, and it is a journey, isn't it? The career or the job is a journey, and even if people have a fixed idea of what they want to do, life's going to throw up opportunities for you. And if you don't know what you want to do, then that's okay as well. So let's go over to Lauren, please. Lauren, when did you know you wanted to work in this field?
So I've always enjoyed maths at school. To be honest, I have a very a straightforward path, not as interesting as Max's really, but I've always enjoyed maths from primary school. It was always my favorite subject. And I got to GCSE, and I also did GCSE computing as well, and I found that I actually quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed, sometimes it was frustrating when you were programming something and it wouldn't work, but the feeling that you got when it worked and it ran and you were able to create something from scratch was very satisfying. I actually didn't go on to do computer science at A level. I actually did maths, further maths, and Mandarin Chinese, which is a bit random. I did physics and chemistry at AS as well. But when I started thinking about what I wanted to do in the future, I knew I wanted to do something with maths, but I wasn't sure if it was, I knew that maths at university, it's a step up from A level. It's quite different. Rather than just solving problems, you go into proving things. And I enjoyed creating things. I enjoyed using my math skills to be creative and to solve problems. And I think that problem solving aspect was something that I really liked. So I had skills from GCSE computing. And I also did a research project in the summer between year 12 and year 13 at the University of Warwick. There was a research lab there that uses artificial intelligence to diagnose cancer using like little cancer images. So I did a little project there, and the project made it to the Big Bang Fair, which is a big science fair across the country. It's really good.
Yeah. People watching this, I think, who know of it or have even been to one themselves. Yeah.
It's a good experience. So yeah, that's why I applied to study computer science at university. I think even if I did maths at university, which you can do maths at university and then end up in computer science, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into computer science. It was by chance that I fell across the apprentice program. I didn't really know about apprenticeships that much beforehand. I thought, there may be hands-on, or you go to uni maybe one day a week and then you work for the rest of it. But this PwC program is quite different. It is you have the normal uni experience and then the business skills as well. I definitely recommend looking into apprenticeships. There's a lot of degree level apprenticeships with different formats. And the great thing about computer science is that there's definitely not one way in. There are just so many ways in. You don't have to go to university at all. You can go to university and do any kind of subject. I've met people who have degrees in history and now they're managers in security at PwC, and they're in charge of lots of big computer projects. So really, you can kind of take many routes into computer science.
That's great to know. The people at home might be wondering, okay, so what do I do? But Lauren, you said about doing a summer project and also the Big Bang. What would you recommend then that somebody would give those types of things a go?
Yeah, so the summer project I did through a scheme called the Nuffield Research Project. I don't know if that's still a thing. But also the great thing about computer science is that you can kind of do, as long as you've got a laptop and an internet connection, there's so much that you can learn. There's so many online courses completely for free, YouTube videos, like Coursera type courses, where you can learn how to program, you can learn how computers work. You can learn how to build websites, kind of anything you want. If you're interested in computer science and programming, I definitely recommend just having a look online. Even just a couple hours, you can learn basic coding. I think if you're interested in getting into programming and you haven't done any before, I'd recommend Python. It's very simple to get into, but yeah, I think that's the great thing about computer science, and that even if you don't go into a program like the Nuffield project, you can build an app at home, or you can build a website, or you can build anything you want, really.
Wow, I think Great advice. And I tell you what, Lauren, we'll put some of those links up on our blog page about the placements and the competitions and the apprenticeships and Python that you mentioned as well. And Max, you were about to add something there.
Yeah, I was just saying, getting started is so easy and can be really fun. So for me, getting started with computing more generally happened because I couldn't afford to buy a brand new super fast computer, at least not as fast as I wanted it to be. So I bought a really old Windows computer. In fact, I bought a couple of them, and I started by putting them together and creating my own. And then I didn't want to run Windows, so because it was too slow, and so I decided that I'd go for Linux. And so I had to learn how to install and get a Linux operating system up and running. And all of the things I learned in doing that and that I taught myself to do, those all came back time and time again as skills that I've used, and right to this very day still use, in my work. So I think getting started is so easy, and there's really simple projects to get started with in that sense. If you've got an old laptop and you just want to make it go a bit faster, well, re-image the laptop and install Linux on it, and you very quickly get to the point where you'll find you're out of your depth, and then you'll be on the internet and learning how to use forums to find answers for coding questions. And and before you know it, you're pretty good.
That's fantastic. Thank you both. I wish we had more time. I would love to hear more about this and from you. You've both given us such a good insight into your roles and how you got there, and things that young people at home can do now if they are interested in finding out or getting into this field. And you've shared with us, thank you, for some of the really energizing and inspiring parts of your job and why it's making a real difference. So thank you, and we will put this video up on our website for people who want to watch it back or who didn't catch it this time. And if people at home, if you can answer the polls that we're about to put up, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.